Olivia Bennett stood in the crowded airport terminal, gripping her boarding pass so tightly that the paper began to crease. At 27 years old, she had built a small but respectable event planning business called Moments Matter. But lately, the business was struggling more than thriving. This trip to Miami was her chance to pitch her services to a major hotel chain that could transform everything. The only problem was that flying absolutely terrified her. The departure board blinked with flight information as travelers rushed past her. Olivia took a deep breath and headed toward Gate 12, her small rolling suitcase bumping along behind her. She had chosen an aisle seat in economy, close to the front, having read somewhere that it was the safest place to sit. Not that any seat felt safe when you were 30,000 feet in the air. An unexpected surprise. The gate agent scanned her boarding pass and looked up with a bright smile. "Miss Bennett, you have been selected for a complimentary upgrade to first class today." "Congratulations," Olivia blinked in surprise. "I think there might be a mistake. I booked the cheapest ticket available. No mistake at all. The system randomly selected you from our loyalty program members. You are all set for seat 2A. Enjoy your flight." Walking down the jetway, Olivia felt like she was dreaming. She had flown budget airlines for years, always in the back row near the bathrooms, always squeezed between strangers who invaded her armrest space. First class seemed like something from a different world entirely. The cabin took her breath away. Wide leather seats that looked more comfortable than her couch at home. Soft lighting that made everything feel calm and luxurious. A flight attendant immediately approached with a warm smile and offered her a choice of champagne or sparkling. "Water, champagne, please," Olivia said, feeling both excited and slightly like an imposter. The stranger across the aisle, she settled into her window seat. Running her hands over the smooth leather armrests, her worn laptop bag looked completely out of place in this elegant setting, but she pulled it onto her lap anyway. Inside were her presentation materials, budget spreadsheets, and a folder full of photos from events she had planned over the past 3 years. A man took the seat across the aisle from her. Olivia noticed him from the corner of her eye but was too busy marveling at the legroom to really look. She opened her laptop and tried to review her pitch one more time, but her hands were already trembling slightly as the plane prepared for departure. The engines started their low rumble. Olivia closed her laptop and gripped the armrests as the aircraft began to taxi toward the runway. Her breathing grew shallow and quick. "First time in first class?" A smooth voice asked from across the aisle. Olivia turned to look at the man properly for the first time. Her heart skipped a beat for reasons that had nothing to do with fear of flying. He was striking in an understated way, with dark brown hair touched with gray at the temples, kind blue eyes, and a warm smile that reached all the way to those eyes. He wore a navy suit that fit him perfectly, and there was something about his calm presence that made her feel slightly more at ease. "Is it that obvious?" Olivia asked, managing a nervous smile. The white knuckles on the armrest gave it away. He said with gentle humor, "I am Nathan Olivia, and yes, this is my first time up here. Also, I should mention that I am completely terrified of flying in general. So if I start hyperventilating, please just ignore me." Taking off together, Nathan's expression softened with understanding rather than judgment. "You are braver than you think. Being afraid and doing it anyway, that is real courage." Before Olivia could respond, the plane turned onto the runway. The engines roared to full power, and the aircraft surged forward. Olivia squeezed her eyes shut and started counting backward from 100, a technique her therapist had taught her. Her whole body was tense as the nose lifted and the wheels left the ground. "You did it," Nathan said once they were airborne. "The hardest part is over." Olivia opened her eyes slowly. The ground was falling away beneath them, buildings growing smaller by the second. Her stomach was still in knots. But Nathan's calm voice helped anchor her. "So what takes you to Miami?" Nathan asked, clearly trying to distract her from her fear. Grateful for the diversion, Olivia told him about Moments Matter. She explained how she had started planning small birthday parties and anniversary dinners, gradually building up to corporate events and weddings. She talked about her upcoming pitch to the Grandview Hotel Group, and how landing this contract could mean steady work for the next 2 years. Connection forms. What kind of events do you love planning most? Nathan asked, leaning slightly toward her with genuine interest. Weddings? Olivia said without hesitation. I know that sounds cliché, but there is something magical about being part of the happiest day of someone's life. Every couple has a unique story, and my job is to help them tell that story through every detail. From the flowers to the music to the way the tables are arranged. Nathan listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about her creative process. Her biggest challenges, her proudest moments. Olivia found herself relaxing as she talked, champagne and his warm attention making her forget she was on a plane at all. What about you? Olivia asked. What brings you to Miami? Business meetings, Nathan replied. I work in real estate development. Mostly commercial properties, some residential projects. They continued talking as the flight attendants served a meal that was actually delicious, unlike anything Olivia had ever experienced in economy. Nathan told her about growing up in Boston, about his love of sailing, about a trip to Italy that had changed his perspective on architecture and design. When the world shook an hour into the flight, turbulence began. It started as gentle bumps, barely noticeable, but within moments, the plane was shaking violently. The seatbelt sign dinged urgently as passengers gasped. Olivia's water glass toppled over, spilling across her tray table. It is just some rough air, Nathan said calmly. Completely normal. Then the plane dropped. Olivia's stomach lurched as they fell through what felt like an endless air pocket. In her panic, she unbuckled her seatbelt, an instinctive mistake born of pure fear. Just as she freed herself, the plane jerked hard to the right. Olivia flew out of her seat. She had one terrible moment of being completely airborne, arms reaching for something to grab, before she crashed directly into Nathan's lap. Not beside him, not against his shoulder, but fully across his lap, like some ridiculous scene from a movie. I am so sorry, Olivia gasped, mortified beyond words. But the plane shook again, and Nathan's arms wrapped firmly around her waist, holding her secure. Do not move yet, he said, his voice calm and steady near her ear. Let me help you. Olivia froze, suddenly aware of every place their bodies touched. Nathan's arms felt strong and safe around her. He smelled like sandalwood and something crisp and clean. Her face was mere inches from his, close enough to see the small scar above his left eyebrow. Close enough to notice the concern in his eyes was entirely for her safety. Are you hurt? Nathan asked softly. Only my pride, Olivia whispered, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. A flight attendant rushed over, her professional composure barely intact. Miss, you need to return to your seat immediately and buckle in. She will stay here, Nathan said with quiet authority. It is safer for her to be properly secured in this seat until the turbulence passes. The attendant hesitated, then nodded and hurried away. Nathan carefully helped Olivia shift from his lap to the window seat beside him, his hands gentle but efficient. He buckled her seatbelt himself, his fingers brushing against her waist and making her heart race for entirely different reasons than fear. Thank you for catching me, Olivia said. That was possibly the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. Nathan smiled, that warm expression that made his whole face light up. I have to say, it is the most memorable flight I have ever had. I literally fell for you, Olivia said, then immediately cringed. That is the worst accidental pickup line in history. Maybe it was meant to happen exactly this way, Nathan said, his eyes holding hers. Maybe some things are just fate. The turbulence gradually subsided, leaving behind a gentle rocking motion that felt almost soothing compared to the violent shaking from before. Olivia remained in the seat beside Nathan, neither of them suggesting she move back to her original spot across the aisle. The flight attendant had brought her belongings over without being asked, a knowing smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Olivia tried to focus on her laptop, pulling up her presentation notes, but her concentration kept breaking. She was acutely aware of Nathan sitting just inches away, of the warmth radiating from his presence, of the way he occasionally glanced over at her screen with polite interest. Tell me about your biggest event, Nathan said after a few minutes. The one you are most proud of. Olivia closed her laptop, grateful for the distraction from her nerves about the upcoming pitch. There was this couple, Jennifer and Marcus. They met in a bookstore during a rainstorm. Both of them reached for the last copy of the same novel at the exact same moment. So when they got engaged 3 years later, they wanted their wedding to feel like stepping into a story. She pulled out her phone and showed Nathan photos from the event. The ceremony had been held in a renovated library, with books lining every wall and vintage reading lamps casting warm pools of light. The aisle was marked with stacks of the couple's favorite novels instead of traditional flowers. Each table was named after a different literary location, from Narnia to Hogwarts to Middle-earth. "This is incredible," Nathan said, studying each photo carefully. "The attention to detail is remarkable. You did not just plan an event, you created an experience, a memory, sharing stories and dreams. That is exactly what I try to do," Olivia said, her voice gaining confidence as she talked about her passion. "Anyone can rent chairs and book a caterer, but I want every event I plan to tell a story that matters to the people living it. I want guests to leave feeling like they were part of something special, something they will remember for years." Nathan listened with an intensity that made Olivia feel truly heard. Most people glazed over when she talked about her work, but he asked questions that showed he understood what she was trying to build. "So why is your business struggling?" Nathan asked gently. "Because from what you are describing, you should have clients lining up around the block." Olivia sighed, the weight of her financial stress settling back onto her shoulders. "Because I price my services based on what I think is fair, not what the market will bear. I spend too much time on details that clients do not specifically pay for. I invest in relationships with small vendors instead of going with the cheapest options. Basically, I run my business with my heart instead of my head. And that does not work well on spreadsheets." "There's nothing wrong with leading with your heart," Nathan said. "The world needs more of that, not less. You just need to find clients who value what you offer enough to pay what it is actually worth. That is what this Miami pitch is about," Olivia admitted. "The Grandview Hotel Group wants someone to handle all their corporate events and weddings for the next 2 years. If I land this contract, it would stabilize everything. I could hire an assistant. Maybe even rent actual office space instead of working from my apartment. The man behind the mystery? What about you?" Olivia asked, eager to shift the focus away from her own anxieties. "You said you work in real estate development. What does that actually mean on a day-to-day basis?" Nathan smiled slightly. "It means I spend a lot of time looking at blueprints and financial projections. I buy properties that have potential, renovate them, and either sell them or lease them out. Sometimes commercial spaces, like office buildings or retail centers. Sometimes residential projects like apartment complexes. Do you enjoy it?" Olivia asked. "I enjoy creating something valuable from something forgotten," Nathan said thoughtfully. "There is a building in Boston that was abandoned for 15 years. Everyone said it was too damaged to save, that it should be torn down. But I saw the original architecture, the bones of something beautiful. We spent 2 years restoring it. Now it houses affordable artist studios and small businesses. That kind of transformation, that is what I love." Olivia found herself smiling. "So we are both in the business of creating meaningful spaces for people. Just in different ways." "I suppose we are," Nathan agreed, his blue eyes warm with appreciation. They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing effortlessly from topic to topic. Nathan told her about learning to sail from his grandfather, about a disastrous attempt to cook Thanksgiving dinner that ended with the fire department being called, about his sister who taught elementary school in Seattle. Olivia shared stories about growing up with 3 brothers who used her easy-bake oven to melt army men, about her best friend who convinced her to quit her corporate marketing job and start her own business, about her fear that she had made a terrible mistake. "You did not make a mistake," Nathan said with quiet certainty. "Taking a risk on something you believe in is never a mistake, even if it does not work out exactly as you planned." The emergency. Landing, the captain's voice suddenly crackled over the intercom, tense in a way that made Olivia's stomach drop. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are experiencing a mechanical issue with one of our hydraulic systems. As a precaution, we will be making an emergency landing in Atlanta. There is no immediate danger, but we need to land as soon as possible. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin." The cabin erupted in nervous murmurs. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. An emergency landing. This was every nervous flyer's worst nightmare coming true. Nathan reached over and took her hand without hesitation. "Look at me, Olivia. Look at me, not out the window." Olivia forced herself to meet his gaze. Her hand was trembling in his, but his grip was steady and warm. "The captain said there is no immediate danger," Nathan said calmly. "That means we are going to land safely in Atlanta. It might be bumpy, but we are going to be fine. I promise you." "How can you promise that?" Olivia whispered, fear making her voice shake. "Because I have been through this before," Nathan said. 3 years ago, different plane, different mechanical issue. We landed safely, barely felt a thing. This is what pilots train for. They know exactly what to do. The flight attendants moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency, demonstrating the brace position and checking that everyone's seatbelts were secure. Olivia wanted to close her eyes and disappear, but Nathan kept talking to her, his voice a steady anchor in a rising panic. "Tell me about your dream event," Nathan said. "If money and logistics were not an issue, what would you plan?" Finding courage and connection, Olivia tried to focus on his question instead of the fear threatening to overwhelm her. "I would plan a destination wedding on the coast of Ireland. There is this castle overlooking the sea, all stone and history and dramatic cliffs. The ceremony would be at sunset, with the ocean crashing below. Irish musicians would play traditional songs. Every detail would honor the landscape and the culture, nothing generic or imported." "That sounds incredible," Nathan said, his thumb gently stroking across her knuckles. "What else?" "The reception would be in the castle's great hall," Olivia continued, finding her breathing evening out slightly as she focused on the details. "Long wooden tables with wildflowers and vintage bottles. Candles everywhere, hundreds of them. Traditional Irish food made by local chefs. And at midnight, we would take all the guests outside to release floating lanterns over the ocean. I would hire you to plan my wedding in a heartbeat," Nathan said with a smile. "Are you engaged?" Olivia asked, suddenly realizing she had never thought to check for a wedding ring. Her eyes dropped to his left hand. "No ring, no," Nathan said. "Not engaged? Not dating anyone?" "I have been so focused on work for the past few years that my personal life has taken a back seat. My sister tells me I am married to my business." "I can relate to that," Olivia admitted. "I have not been on a real date in over a year. Every time someone asks me out, I end up canceling because of work." The plane began its descent. Olivia's grip on Nathan's hand tightened as she felt the change in altitude. Emergency vehicles would be waiting on the runway, the flight attendant had explained, just as a precaution. The thought of fire trucks and ambulances made Olivia's heart race. "Breathe with me," Nathan said. "In 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Come on, do it with me." Olivia followed his lead, breathing in rhythm with him. In, hold out. In, hold out. Her panic began to recede slightly, pushed back by the simple act of controlled breathing. Landing and revelation, the landing was rougher than normal. The plane touching down hard and the brakes engaging aggressively. But within moments, they were safely on the ground, rolling toward the terminal. The cabin erupted in relieved applause. "See," Nathan said, squeezing her hand gently. "I told you we would be fine." Olivia realized she was crying, tears of relief streaming down her face. Nathan reached up and gently wiped them away with his thumb, the gesture so tender that it made her heart ache. "Thank you," she whispered, "for keeping me calm, for being here." Just then, the airline announced they'd provide hotel rooms in Atlanta and rebook everyone on morning flights. As passengers slowly filed off the plane, Nathan kept a hand on the small of Olivia's back. It was a simple, protective gesture, but it made her feel incredibly safe and cared for. Back in the terminal, the full weight of the situation started to set in.
"Oh."
Olivia checked her phone, and her heart sank. 3 missed calls from the Grandview Hotel group. Her big pitch meeting was scheduled for tomorrow afternoon in Miami. If she didn't make it, she would lose this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When she explained the situation, her voice trembling slightly, Nathan didn't hesitate. "Let me help," he said. "I have a friend with a private plane based here in Atlanta. I can ask if he's available to fly us to Miami tonight." Olivia was stunned. I couldn't possibly accept that. That would be too much. But her heart leaped at the very idea. "Olivia," Nathan said, his voice serious, "I want to help. Please let me." There was a sincerity in his eyes that went beyond just being helpful. Before she could even process it, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting just a little. "I need to take this," he said apologetically, "but don't make any other plans. Give me 10 minutes. He stepped away to answer the call, and a sudden curiosity took hold of Olivia. She pulled out her own phone and typed Nathan's name into the search engine. What she found made her hands go numb. Nathan Pierce wasn't just a real estate developer. He was the founder and CEO of Pierce Properties, one of the largest commercial real estate firms on the East Coast. Articles called him the king of renovation. Forbes had profiled him twice. His estimated net worth was over $500 million. Olivia just stood there, frozen in the middle of the terminal, staring at photos of Nathan in expensive suits at charity galas, shaking hands with mayors and governors, accepting business awards. This man wasn't just successful. He lived in a completely different world. Nathan returned, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "Good news. My friend can fly us to Miami tonight. We'll land around 10, and I've arranged hotel rooms for both of us at the Grandview." "The Grandview," Olivia repeated faintly. "Where I have my meeting tomorrow." Nathan smiled. "I know the owner. Figured it might help to have you nearby and well-rested." Olivia looked at this man who had held her hand through her fear, listened to her dreams, and was now casually arranging private planes and 5-star hotels. She should have felt intimidated or inadequate. Instead, she just felt this overwhelming mix of gratitude, confusion, and a powerful pull towards him. "You're not just a real estate developer, are you?" she said quietly. Nathan's expression became guarded. "You looked me up. The internet did most of the work," Olivia admitted. "Nathan Pierce, CEO and founder of Pierce Properties. Why didn't you tell me?" "'Cause I liked being just Nathan to you," he said simply. "Not the business owner or the deal maker, just a person having a conversation with someone interesting and real." The honesty in his voice completely disarmed her. She understood that impulse more than he could ever know. How many times had she downplayed her own work, her own ambitions, because she was worried about being judged? "I get it," she said softly. "I really do." The relief on Nathan's face was genuine. "So you'll let me help you get to Miami? Not because of who I am or what I do, but because I want to make sure you have every chance to nail that pitch tomorrow." Olivia nodded, a small smile finally breaking through her uncertainty. "'Kay, but I'm paying you back somehow." "You can bake me something," Nathan said with a grin. "You mentioned you love baking. I want to taste whatever you make best." "Deal," Olivia agreed. As they walked through the Atlanta airport, Olivia noticed how people recognized Nathan. They would do a double take, whisper to their friends, and move aside with a mix of respect and curiosity. But Nathan's attention never wavered from her. He carried her bag, asked if she was hungry, and made sure she was comfortable every step of the way. The private plane was smaller than the commercial flight, but infinitely more luxurious. As they took off into the night sky, soaring above the city lights, Olivia looked over at Nathan. Something shifted in her chest. This wasn't just attraction or gratitude anymore. This was the beginning of something that felt significant, terrifying, and absolutely right. Miami awaited, with her big pitch and all its uncertainty. But for now, flying through the darkness with Nathan beside her, Olivia felt braver than she had in years. The Miami sunrise painted the sky in shades of coral and gold as Olivia stood on the balcony of her hotel room at the Grandview. She had barely slept. Her mind was a whirlwind, racing between nerves about the pitch and the surreal events of the past day. Nathan had arranged separate suites for them on the same floor, a gesture that was both thoughtful and respectful. Before saying goodnight, he'd squeezed her hand and told her, "You're going to be amazing." Now, watching the ocean waves roll onto the beach below, Olivia tried to gather her scattered thoughts. In just 3 hours, she would walk into a conference room and present her vision to executives who could change her entire life. Her laptop sat on the desk, presentation polished and ready. Her best navy dress hung in the closet, freshly steamed. Everything was prepared, except for her racing heart. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Olivia opened the door to a hotel staff member holding a silver tray with coffee, fresh pastries, and a handwritten note. She tipped the server and brought the tray inside, her hands trembling slightly as she unfolded the note. It read, "You are going to be brilliant today. Remember that they need you as much as you need them. Believe in yourself the way I believe in you. Nathan." Olivia sat down heavily on the bed, clutching the note. She had known this man for less than a day, yet somehow he saw her more clearly than people she had known for years. The coffee was perfect. The pastries were from a local bakery he must have researched. Every single detail showed care and attention. 2 hours later, Olivia walked into the Grandview conference room with her shoulders back and her head held high. 3 executives sat waiting, including Victoria Chen, the vice president of events and hospitality. The room was elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. A massive polished table and an atmosphere of intense professional scrutiny. "Miss Bennett, welcome," Victoria said, her expression neutral and assessing. "We appreciate you making the trip despite yesterday's flight difficulties. We heard about the emergency landing." "It was an adventure," Olivia said, with a calm smile she didn't entirely feel. "But I'm here and ready to show you why Moments Matter is the right partner for the Grandview Hotel Group." She connected her laptop to the projection system and began her presentation. But instead of the stiff, rehearsed pitch she had practiced 100 times, Olivia found herself speaking straight from the heart. She told them about Jennifer and Marcus's bookstore wedding, about a corporate event she planned that brought together employees from 12 different countries in a celebration of diversity. She described an anniversary party for a couple married for 60 years, where every decoration represented a different decade of their love. "Events aren't just about logistics and budgets," Olivia said, her voice gaining strength with each word. "They're about creating moments that matter, experiences that people carry with them long after the flowers have wilted and the music has stopped. You could hire any planning company in the country.
Oh.
Most of them would be cheaper than me. I'll give you something none of them can. I will give you events that your guests remember, that they talk about, that make them want to come back to Grandview properties again and again." She showed the mock-up she had created specifically for Grandview corporate events that incorporated local Miami culture. Weddings that showcased the hotel's unique architecture. Galas that would generate massive social media buzz and press coverage. Every slide demonstrated not just what she could do, but why it mattered. When she finished, the room was silent. Victoria exchanged glances with the other executives, their expressions completely unreadable. "Miss Bennett," Victoria finally said, "your presentation was impressive. Your passion is evident, and your creative vision is exactly what we have been looking for." A wave of hope surged through Olivia's chest. "However," Victoria continued, and Olivia's heart sank like a stone, "we have some concerns about your company's capacity. You are essentially a one-woman operation. How can we trust that you can handle the volume of events we would require? What happens if you get sick or have an emergency? We need reliability as much as creativity." "I understand your concerns," Olivia said, forcing herself to stay calm. "I am prepared to hire additional staff immediately upon signing this contract. I have already identified 2 experienced event coordinators who are interested in joining my team. I also have established relationships with reliable vendors across multiple cities who can execute my visions. Even if I can't be physically present at every single event." "That brings us to our second concern," another executive said. "Your financial stability. Our background check showed that your business is operating on very thin margins. You can't partner with a company that might fold in 6 months. Olivia felt her cheeks flush. "My margins are thin because I invest heavily in quality and relationships, not shortcuts. I have never missed a deadline, never failed on a promise, and never had a client express dissatisfaction. My business is small, but it's solid." "We'll need time to discuss this," Victoria said, standing up in a clear dismissal. Olivia gathered her things, disappointment crashing over her. She made it to the elevator before the tears started. By the time she reached her hotel room, she was crying, all the stress and exhaustion pouring out. Then, a knock on her door. When she opened it and saw Nathan standing there, the tears started fresh. "Hey, what happened?" he asked, stepping inside. "I thought the meeting was supposed to go until noon. They ended it early," she said, her voice breaking. "They loved my ideas, but they don't trust that I can deliver. My business is too small, too unstable." Nathan pulled her into his arms without hesitation. Olivia collapsed against his chest, letting his solid presence ground her. He just held her, stroking her hair while she cried. "I'm sorry," Olivia finally said, pulling back. "You're not being ridiculous," Nathan said firmly. "You put your heart into that. You're allowed to be disappointed." He guided her to the couch. "Tell me what they said." Olivia repeated the conversation, explaining their concerns. Nathan listened intently. "What if you had a financial backer?" he asked carefully. "Someone who could invest in your business? Give you the stability to expand?" Olivia looked at him sharply. "Nathan, no. I can't accept money from you. We barely know each other." "Hear me out," he said. "This wouldn't be charity. It would be a business investment. I invest in companies I believe in. Your business has enormous potential." "It would be weird," Olivia protested. "We met yesterday. You caught me when I literally fell into your lap." "Because I believe in what you're building," Nathan said simply. "Because I've spent the last day watching you chase your dreams with courage?" Olivia wanted to say yes, but fear held her back. "I need to think about it," she said quietly. "Of course," Nathan replied. "Take all the time you need." "But Olivia, whether you accept my investment or not, yesterday wasn't just a random encounter for me. I've been going through the motions for years. Then you fell into my life. And I remembered what it feels like to connect with someone real." Olivia's breath caught. "I felt it too." "You weren't imagining anything," Nathan said, cupping her face gently. "I know this is fast. I also know that some things are worth taking a risk on." He leaned in slowly, and Olivia closed the distance, their lips meeting in a kiss full of promise. The next morning, Olivia called Victoria Chen. "Miss Chen, this is Olivia Bennett. I wanted to follow up on yesterday's meeting. I know, but I have some new information. I've secured a significant financial investment that will allow me to immediately hire 2 full-time coordinators and establish a proper office. My investor also brings extensive business experience." "May I ask who this investor is?" Victoria asked, her tone shifting. "Nathan Pierce of Pierce Properties," Olivia said, her voice steady. "He believes in my vision." There was a long pause. "Nathan Pierce is investing in your company?" "Yes." "With his investment, I can provide the stability you require. Miss Bennett, can you come back to the Grandview this afternoon? I think we need to have another conversation." 3 hours later, Olivia walked out with a signed contract. A 1-year trial partnership. It was more than enough. Nathan was waiting in the lobby. "I got it," Olivia said, her voice wobbling. Nathan swept her into his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. "I'm so proud of you," he said. "You did this, Olivia. Your talent, your passion, you did more than that," she said. "You reminded me to believe in myself." They celebrated with lunch on the beach. "So what happens now?" Nathan asked. "Now I go back to New York and hire those coordinators," Olivia said. "I start planning the first Grandview events, and us." Asked quietly. "I want there to be an us," she said. "Good," Nathan said, smiling. "'Cause I already changed my schedule for the next month. I'm going to be in New York quite a bit. Something about a potential property acquisition that is definitely not an excuse to see you." Over the next 6 months, they built something together. Nathan did acquire a property in Brooklyn, and Olivia rented the ground floor for her new Moments Matter office. Their relationship developed alongside their professional partnership. Nathan attended every event Olivia planned, watching with pride. They had their first real fight and compromised. Nathan met Olivia's brothers and won them over. Olivia met Nathan's sister and planned a surprise party for her. 8 months after their flight, Nathan took Olivia back to Miami. They had dinner at the Grandview, where Victoria Chen personally thanked Olivia for exceeding every expectation. Then, Nathan drove her to a quiet spot on the beach as the sun set. "Do you remember when I asked you about your dream event?" he said as they walked barefoot in the sand. "That castle in Ireland overlooking the sea, I remember. You said it would be a destination wedding with the ceremony at sunset." Nathan stopped, turning to face her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside, a diamond ring sparkled. "No, we haven't been together that long," he said. "But I also know that some things don't need time to be certain. Olivia Bennett, will you marry me? And more importantly, will you plan our wedding at that castle in Ireland?" Olivia was crying and laughing. "Yes. Yes to marrying you, yes to Ireland, yes to everything." Nathan slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her as the sun dipped below the horizon. 1 year later, the castle overlooked the sea exactly as Olivia had described. The ceremony took place at sunset. In the Great Hall, Hundreds of candles flickered against ancient stone walls. At midnight, all the guests gathered to release floating lanterns over the ocean. As Olivia and Nathan stood watching the lights drift into the darkness, she thought about that terrifying flight. She had been so afraid, so convinced staying on the ground was safer. But sometimes, the greatest risks lead to the most beautiful destinations. "I love you," Nathan whispered. "I love you too," Olivia said. "Thank you for catching me when I fell." "Thank you for being brave enough to fall," he replied. Their story had begun in the clouds, two strangers finding connection in the midst of fear. Now they knew every moment of turbulence had been worth it. Because love is about finding someone who makes the hard parts worth facing, someone who catches you when you fall and helps you fly higher than you ever thought possible. As the last lantern disappeared, Nathan took Olivia's hand and led her back to the celebration. Together they danced under the stars, grateful for the turbulence that had brought them together and for the smooth skies that stretched ahead. Thanks for watching our story today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. See you next time.